Hola, bienvenidos. Welcome to our lesson on double object pronouns. Of all the lessons I'll teach you, this one could have the most steps. Now, to save us some time, I'm going to reference where you can find some of the back information if you're trying to catch up on using object pronouns. Because we have direct object pronouns that were taught in chapter 5. I'm going to show you that. It's 5.4. But again, for me to try to reteach you this lesson that was taught in Spanish 1, it could take some time. So it's good for you to read over that if you find yourself a little bit lost or just need a refresher about direct object pronouns. I just wanted to show you where you could find that. The point that I can quickly mention is a direct object is what receives the action of that verb. So if I say I buy pizza, what do I buy? Pizza. That's my direct object. I watch a movie. What do I watch? A movie. So your direct object will answer the what or who of the sentence. I call my mom. Who do I call? My mom. I visit my family. Who do I visit? My family. Direct objects can be people and they can be things. The direct object pronouns are the following, and the ones that are different from the others will be your lo, la, los, and las. That's what distinguishes them the most, okay? Now, when we did this in our course, we learned about indirect objects, and I did mention in that video about some of the direct objects to try to catch you up. So I went over this lesson, so I'll just, if you need to, go back to 6.2 and watch that again as a refresher. But the indirect is really who receives that. So Roberto le presta 100 pesos a Luisa. Luisa is my indirect object, but the pronoun that must be present is le. Really, Luisa is a clarifier because le can mean to her, to him, to you, like usted. It can be to Juan, to Maria, to Paco. And then les is also very general when you're saying it's for you, like ustedes, or for them, like a ellos, a ellas, a ustedes. So that's why we use those clarifiers. Again, you can find this information on 6.2 and the following page 203. Our lesson today picks up assuming that we understand that. So that's why I referenced maybe you need to go refresh. Remembering that although they all start the same, like me, te, nos, and os, where they're different is in your third person. We have le and les for indirect object pronouns, and then for our direct object pronouns, lo, la, los, and las. Now let me explain this little chart. What they're telling us is that when you use them together, your le might become se if the word after it is one of these. For example, I can't say le and lo together. No, it becomes celo. I can't say le and los. I can't use le with any of these that start with an L, and I can't use les with any of these that start with an L. Something that you'll see as we continue through. But there's other combinations. I can say me lo, I can say te la, I can say nos la, nos los, and I haven't really showed you in a sentence yet, but I just wanted to explain why those two charts were sitting there. These are the options of how we can use them together. But I really like the sentences we have here to help explain. When direct and indirect object pronouns are used together, the indirect object pronoun always proceeds. So it's like ID, right? The I of indirect and the D for direct. So ID will always go first, just like you typically have in your sentence structure. That's how it'll be when your pronouns are together. You can speak without them. It would be very difficult to because we often use these pronouns together in real life. Give it to her. In Spanish, that's going to be a double object pronoun kind of sentence. Give me them, double object pronoun. I need to buy them for him, double object pronoun. So anytime you're using sentences like that, in Spanish, they require double object pronouns. Let's go over some of these sentences. La camarera me muestra el menú. They've already identified that the person receiving the menu is me, so I am the indirect object in this sentence. The direct object is menú because what does the waitress show? El menú. I can reduce el menú to lo, and I can say la camarera me lo muestra. Let's look at another sentence. Nos sirven los platos. They serve because when it's plural like that, we can assume it's like a group. They serve. They serve what? Los platos. They've identified our direct object. Who receives those platos? Nos. Nos is the indirect. You have to understand the sentence to know how this is functioning. Whether nos or me, for example, is a direct or an indirect. It takes understanding the verb and then the direct object and then the indirect object. You can reduce los platos to los, and you can say nos los sirven as you continue through your conversation. These often appear in conversations. Maribel te pidió una hamburguesa. Maribel pidió ¿qué? Una hamburguesa. And who received this? You. So that's a te. Maribel te la pidió. That le is the pronoun that matches una hamburguesa. So again, we have our indirect object pronouns first, and then our direct object pronouns second. These take time, especially when you're still dealing with the verb, like if it's future, past, even if it's a present tense. Let's look at some more examples. I was mentioning you cannot have two pronouns that begin with the letter L. It wasn't just a thing that I made up to help you remember. That's really how we explain it. So if your indirect is either le or les, and your direct is one of the ones with L, like lo, los, la, or las, then you change your le to se. So you'll see a whole lot of se, because se replaces le or les when they are combining. Therefore, le escribí la carta becomes se la escribí. How did that happen? Okay, let's break it down again. Escribí que la carta. That's my direct object. That pronoun was condensed to la. And then it would have been le la, because I wrote him. So him is the recipient. That's my indirect object. But I can't say le la, so I have to say se la. And then les sirvió los sándwiches. Los sándwiches is going to be represented with los, my direct object pronoun. And then I would have said les, los, because les is who received these sandwiches? Them. Them is a group of people that received it. So it's les. However, when you put it together, it becomes celos. Okay? I think these sentences are really nicely identified and coded for us to understand the topic. Let's just go over this last few points and then eventually we'll get to some practice. Because se has multiple meanings, right? When we're saying celo, cela, celos, celas, it's really good to clarify who is really that indirect object. So you can say something like this: el sombrero, Carlos se lo vendió a ella. I'm clarifying with a ella. Las verduras, ellos se las compran a usted. That se came from this idea of usted. Again, we couldn't leave le there and we couldn't leave le there, but that's how you can clarify. Double object pronouns are placed before conjugated verb. It's always the indirect, then the direct, ID. Now, when you go to attach them, you can attach them to infinitives and you can attach them to participles. This has happened every time we learned a new object pronoun, whether it was direct by itself, indirect by itself, or reflexive pronouns. Sorry. So you attach in that same order, ID. Te lo voy a mostrar equals voy a mostrártelo. It has the same meaning. Uno, dos, tres, count backwards, and boom. That's where you land your accent. Nos las están comprando. Están comprándonoslas. This is the only time counting backwards to 3 doesn't work because your participle has 2 different vowels. So in this case, you would actually have to count back 4. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, and that's where your written accent will go. And again, to summarize that rule, let me wait for it. It's very specific. When you have 2 double object pronouns that you're attaching to a participle, you count back 4 to land your accent. Now try to say that 3 times fast. Let's see if we can get some practice done. Okay. I'm going to just make sure we understand what we need to do, and then I'll tell you when you can pause. Here, we're not doing them at the same exact time. It's kind of nice that they're giving us the structure without like making us jump in fully. In the first set, we're just identifying el objeto directo, the direct object. So they had given us that la ensalada, el camarero nos la sirvió. So in this case, you would just fill in the direct objects, lo, la, los, or las. But in the next one, it could be who receives that. So puedes traerme tu plato, No, no te lo puedo traer. You have to understand it says, can you bring me your plate? No, I can't bring it to you. If I said, can you bring me? Can you bring me? No, I can't bring it to you. So there's an exchange happening. That's why you have to understand what's the question to know how can we properly answer. So these objetos indirectos or indirect objects can be me, te, nos, os. We're not going to use os though. It can be also um, le or les, but if your next pronoun starts with an L, which I see a lot of them, it would become se. You can't use le or les with a pronoun that starts with an L. So now I want you to go ahead and try this activity. So pause here and try it, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers. Okay, listos? Let's go in. El salmón. La dueña me la recomienda. Oh, lo, it's masculine. It's masculine. Me lo recomienda. La comida, voy a preparártela. And that was all attached. Preparártela. Los refrescos, te los puedo traer ahora. Las bebidas, estamos pidiéndoselas. Ooh, that's fancy. Los platos de arroz van a servirnoslos después. Okay. Those are our direct objects represented in pronouns. And now to catch the indirect. ¿Quieres mostrarle la carta? Do you want to show him or her the letter? Sí, voy a mostrársela ahora. What happened there was, are you going to show him or her? Yes, I'm going to show him or her. I never knew who le really was, but it stays. Now, the reason it's not le is because of the la next to it. It converted into se. ¿Les serviste la carne? Did you serve the meat to them? So some group, no, no se la serví. Because I didn't serve it to them. But again, this would have been les. But it can't stay les because it's converted into se. ¿Me recomiendas la langosta? Sí. Now this one is maybe easier to see the exchange. Do you recommend the lobster to me? Yes, I recommend it to you. To you, sí. Te la recomiendo. ¿Vas a leerle el menú? Are you going to read the menu to him or her? No, no se lo voy a leer. How did that happen? It would have been le, but I can't put le with lo. So it's se lo, no se lo voy a leer. No, no se lo voy a leer. ¿Cuándo vas a prepararnos la cena? When are you going to prepare the dinner for us? La voy a preparar en una hora. So I'm going to prepare it for all of you. Now, all of you is like saying a ustedes. A ustedes is represented by les. It would be les, but the next thing happening is la. So se. That took a lot of brain power for me to do that. So I know this isn't the easiest thing. Thankfully, we're writing these more than we're saying them. And that's what it's going to take, writing. So let me go ahead and submit this. Make sure I didn't make a silly mistake. Okay, so those are our answers for the top and then for the bottom. All right, so let's just see. Let's go back to where we picked up and just see what's your next step. Now, we have different activities, and this one is a little more straightforward, like something that we've done. I'm going to do a few of these with you just for that extra practice, because I could sit here and explaining it, but I think that practice is more important than many tutorials, which I can always link additional resources, but we're doing this one that's on page 279. And let me just zoom in properly. Okay. Ese es quién. La señora Ceballos, never heard that last name, está planeando una cena. Se pregunta cómo va a resolver ciertas situaciones. Indica lo que ella está pensando. Cambia los sustantivos subrayados por pronombres de objeto directo y haz los otros cambios necesarios. Wowee! So, the idea here is that we're going to have to change the underlined piece for the correct pronoun and give a, basically restate these. I'm the type of person that's like, let's just jump in and see what's going to happen. So again, you should just watch me and then you can try some on your own. So looking at the model, which is always key, no tengo carne. ¿Quién va a traerme la carne del supermercado? So I can respond to this. Mi esposo va a traérmela. Or you can split up your pronouns. You don't have to attach them. Mi esposo me la va a traer. Okay. So, ¿quién las invitaciones? ¿Quién les manda las invitaciones a los invitados? Mi hija. So, mi hija is my subject. Mi hija, who's going to send the invitations to the guests? ¿Quién les manda las invitaciones a los invitados? So I would say like las, but I can't do that. So mi hija se las manda. If you were like, where did I get the las from? I got it from my direct object, las invitaciones. No tengo tiempo de ir a la bodega. ¿Quién me puede comprar el vinagre? ¿Mi hijo? Yes, that's going to be my subject. Mi hijo. So who can buy me the vinegar? Now, if I'm answering, is she answering this herself? Yes, she's asking herself. So because she's asking herself, it says se pregunta. Then she's like, who's going to bring me the vinegar? Oh, my son will bring it to me. That's what I'm about to create. Mi hijo me, now I'm going to put lo because of vinagre. Me lo puede comprar. I answered it like this with this verb, me lo puede comprar, because she's answering her own question. If I could just spell, that would be great. Okay, mi hijo me lo puede comprar. All right, I want you to just pause and try some of the remaining ones. So I'll just kind of like show you, you got it 3 to 8 there. You can pause here. And then 9 and 10, because I'm going to go in now and do the responses. Okay. Ay, no tengo suficientes platos. ¿Quién puede prestarme los platos que necesito? Mi mamá me los puede prestar. I'm not a fan of attaching my pronouns, as you can see. I think it's easier to see when they're not attached. So, nos falta mantequilla. We're lacking butter. ¿Quién nos trae la mantequilla? Mi cuñada. And I know I'm missing my accent here on mamá. So let me just add that. That's like, small detail. Mi cuñada nos la trae. Los entremeses. ¿Quién está preparándonos? ¿Quién está preparándonos los entremeses? Silvia y Renata nos los está preparando. I need my accent here. Again, I could choose to attach it to the preparando, but I'm just opting for one version today. Nos los. Nos. ¿Quién está preparando? Because again, she's answering her own question. So it's like, who's bringing us the appetizers? Oh, Silvia and Renata are bringing us. So that's why that stayed nos. I'm not a fan of this activity where you answer your own question, but that's what's happening. No hay suficientes sillas. ¿Quién nos trae las sillas que faltan? Héctor y Lorena nos las traen. Put the accent here. No tengo tiempo de pedirle el aceite a Mónica. ¿Quién puede pedirle el aceite? Mi hijo puede pedir. For some reason, I'm attaching. It just, I don't know, just kind of happened that way. But the other version was mi hijo se lo puede pedir. So attaching can be quite natural. You would need to count backwards here and say pedírselo. Pedírselo. I feel like I'm going to get something wrong in this activity. This is one of those topics. This is like one of the hardest things we do in this course, by the way. ¿Quién va a servirles la cena a los invitados? Mis hijos se la van a servir. Quiero poner buena música de fondo. ¿Quién me va a recomendar la música? Mi esposo me la va a recomendar. I think the reason she's answering her own questions is so that we don't confuse you by changing the verbs. Because if we throw in changing the verbs, especially to verb conjugations you're not comfortable with, oof, that's very difficult. Los postres. ¿Quién va a preparar los postres para los invitados? La señora, what's his last name? Villalba. Villalba va a, oh no, I'm attaching, preparárselos. Or la señora se los va a preparar. Oh my goodness. I'm submitting. I've never been so nervous. Oh, what did I do? Okay, hold on. Hold on. Okay. First thing, nos los está. Oh, that's a silly mistake because obviously it's plural, so that's están. Okay, I shouldn't have been looking there when I was doing my answer. So that's the first mistake. Here, hijo puede pedírselo. And then in my second example, I didn't write hijo. If I was doing the rewriting, it should be mi hijo. It's not just me or something like that's wrong. So I should have included hijo again. And then I forgot my accent. Uno, dos, tres. I attached. Okay, so let's fix these things. Okay, están. Make this larger for you. Mi hijo. And then it was down here. I have to add my written accent. Preparárselos. Hold on. All right, should be good now. What is wrong here? Mi hijo puede pedírselo. Pedírselo. Mi hijo puede pedírselo. Es lo for el aceite. Se, mi hijo se lo puede pedir. Is it not mi hijo? No tengo tiempo de pedir. ¿Quién puede pedirle el aceite? Oh, okay. I know what it is. It's not the se at all. Is that my son can ask me? Okay, I'm sorry, guys. This is just... She's answering her own question. Mi hijo puede pedírmelo. Well, it's good that you saw me make a mistake. So you see that obviously that the interpretation of these can get confusing. Me lo puede pedir. Because she's saying my son can ask me. Still? Oh no, I'm gonna get fired. I'm just kidding. Mi hijo puede pedírmelo. Pedírmelo. Mi hijo me lo puede pedir. Okay, we're asking Monica. Okay, let me start over. I do not have time to ask for the oil from Monica. That's the idea. I do not have time to ask Monica for the oil. Oil is my direct object. Monica is my indirect object. Lo replaces el aceite. Le is over here. So are we back to pedírselo? ¿Quién puede pedirle el aceite? Mi hijo puede I'm going back to pedírselo. Yeah, but then I thought that's what happened last time. I thought we were pedírselo. Is it my written accent? Oh, okay. Let me just do one sentence. Se lo puede pedir. Let's do that. Okay, for some reason they did not like me writing two different options. So the first one was correct. We are indeed asking Monica for the oil. So then I thought, wait, is my son asking me for the oil? But there you have it. Mi hijo se lo puede pedir. It's a lot of moving pieces here. We have four key elements: a subject, a verb, that's two, an indirect object, and a direct object. So this is going to require a lot of practice. Go back to the description. You can watch this again. I have linked other resources, and there's another tutorial and more practice. So with all that being said, that's what it's going to take. Try this several times. I'm trying not to make this video too long, but I wanted to give you enough time to let us explore together. Bueno, muchas gracias y nos vemos en el próximo video.